Sometimes one accidental find is worth more than an entire expedition, and sometimes it is worth far more, because it changes everything we thought about the past, war, nature, and ourselves. Sunken ships, forgotten airplanes, treasure hoards, skeletons, eerie bunkers, and objects that look as if they should not exist at all. Today on TopFacts, discoveries that shocked the entire world. Watch until the end, because the most incredible of them, as always, are waiting ahead. Enjoy the viewing. Treasure hunters definitely know what real happiness is, when a find finally sees the light of day. His jewelry collection keeps growing with every walk along the beach. If you have ever found at least one earring or coin, you will understand why the azart never fades. This guy trusted his metal detector so much that he even hired an excavator. He absolutely wanted to dig up what the device had found. Let us just say, he did not miscalculate. The effort paid off with something far greater than the treasure hunter expected. Yes, it was a real treasure with jewelry. This blade was probably the last thing left of a Wehrmacht officer. He likely knew that defeat was inevitable and buried his honor in the ground. Perhaps the samurai would condemn him, but we do not know all the circumstances of that scene. For more than a century, the residents of a British town swam in this river without knowing that a 19th century silver saber was lying on the bottom. It would be interesting to know under what circumstances it ended up there. This guy's metal detector must have received a blessing from leprechauns, or led him to the end of the rainbow, because he really did find the coveted little pot with real gold. This meme has finally become reality. However, instead of diamonds, the lucky people found only 50 kilograms of gold ore. Yes, gold is a very heavy metal, which is why an ingot is so compact. Do not think that owning a metal detector means an instant lottery win. Some people work for months. For example, when this lucky man was methodically searching a cave, everyone laughed at him, until he discovered a treasure of gold bars. Judging by his clothes, this Sudanese boy was not digging through the soil in search of treasure. And yet, by some magical means, he spotted what no one else had noticed: a huge mass of gold ore hidden in plain sight. This guy threw a magnet into a dark well, not really hoping for anything, but something unexpectedly answered from the depths. From beneath the water rose a legendary 14th century Topfhelm helmet. One can only imagine how the enemies trembled with terror when they saw a warrior in this armor. Another treasure hunter definitely lived up to his title, because he found a real chest full of 20th century jewelry. In the 50s, this area became famous for swarms of smugglers. One of them, fearing a raid, most likely buried the treasure to avoid arrest, but never came back for it. Fate loves to play with us, sometimes cruelly mocking us. Can you imagine a family that finds a safe full of money on the beach? But today is not that case. They found only a little packet of silica gel. Abandoned cars from the 40s and 50s formed a kind of necropolis in a remote forest. An apocalyptic atmosphere, right? This car graveyard was discovered by chance, not far from Atlanta. Apparently, at one time, what began as a car dismantling yard turned into a museum where more than 4,000 masterpieces of the automotive industry are now stored. Walking between the rusty rows where legends, Ford Mustang, Chevrolet Camaro, and Dodge Charger fell into eternal sleep, you feel like a traveler in time. One explorer of abandoned property almost called the security service of Area 51 when he discovered strange capsules with cars inside. But it soon turned out that the entire hangar belonged to some eccentric collector from Detroit. More than 70 rare cars are stored there, including a Cadillac station wagon, one of only 2 examples in the world. The first Cadillac AA with an enclosed cab, a Ford Cobra, a Ford Cougar II, and other automotive rarities. Apparently, the capsules were meant to protect them from corrosion. It looks as though divers discovered a crime scene at the bottom of the Red Sea. What these flooded trucks were transporting remains a mystery, but one thing is clear. Those behind it decided to get rid of the transport and, perhaps, the people who carried out the secret shipment. Have you ever come across something unusual in the forest? What is the strangest thing you have ever found? Most likely, a giant mushroom. But what about abandoned M60 tanks that have been standing here since the Cold War? I am waiting for your stories in the comments. For 80 years, Poland's Warta River concealed beneath its silt the last Valentine tank in Europe. This find can be called a real stroke of luck. The engineers who created the main British Chieftain tank handled the task of camouflage perfectly. The tank blends into nature so well that if you simply leave the vehicle somewhere in a remote area, then 60 years later, it will not be so easy to find it. Who would have thought that on the island of Socotra, a T-34 tank has been heroically gazing at the horizon for 80 years already? It is very atmospheric, considering the distance it traveled to become a monument here. Local residents are afraid even to approach this boat. According to rumors, it appeared silently in the forest after a rainy night, and no one ever returned for it. A huge abandoned ship settled on land dozens of kilometers from the nearest water. The Taiwanese authorities found no explanation for it. We do not have one either. Maybe you know how this vessel ran aground here? The operation to raise the South Korean ferry Sewol turned out to be one of the most difficult in history. Extracting the massive vessel with a displacement of 6,800 tons took a full 3 years, but the ship was lifted from the bottom intact with the help of 2 barges and transported away for further investigation. Legends are told in Britain about this cemetery of abandoned ships. Here, a motley collection has gathered, from obsolete fishing boats to genuine relics from the time of the Second World War. It is strange that they all ended their service lives in one place. The ship World Discoverer traveled through countless countries and could have visited many more corners of the planet if it had not struck a reef in Roderick Bay. Since then, it has remained frozen at a 46-degree list and become part of the landscape in the picturesque lagoon of a tropical island. After Storm Debbie, people found many useful things along the coast, but the 18-meter yacht known as Front Page may be considered the most expensive find of all, although other ships ended up on land as well. September 5th, 1909, became the last working day for the German cargo steamship Eduard Bolin. As a result of an unfortunate accident, the Sands captured it and have held it hostage ever since on Namibia's Skeleton Coast. After rain in the desert, you can find things you do not expect. Expensive luxury cars end up buried in the sand. Well, if it is no problem for the desert to swallow an entire ship, then dealing with a car is even easier. When construction of the bridge began, no one knew what awaited them on the seabed. There lurked a single-engine P-40 Kitty Hawk fighter with machine guns in perfect working condition, still ready for battle. In June 1942, another P-40 Kitty Hawk aircraft disappeared without a trace over the desert in western Egypt. Its discovery decades later, in such good condition, is nothing short of a miracle. Have you heard anything about a Boeing 737 that allegedly made an emergency landing in the forest in the 60s? The point is that nobody knows anything, and the airliner is still standing there in the forest. While walking through a quiet Belgian town, tourists suddenly came across an abandoned Airbus airliner. But the real shock came when they stepped inside, because the aircraft had once been converted into a cafe. This Curtiss P-40L Warhawk spent 54 years underwater, yet it did not become a rusty wreck and did not lose its former grandeur. It is time to reveal this secret too. In Germany, beneath the dark waters of a flooded chalk quarry in Hemmoor, there lies an airplane. But I will not say more. Perhaps you will add details in the comments? Welcome to the game battlefield, or more precisely, to an Air Force base. At present, this is the only training ground in Europe for real military exercises. A fake airfield has been built here, where old Soviet MiG-19 aircraft and Mi-24 helicopters play the key roles. A place where the future plays with the shadows of the past and tests new electronic warfare technologies. What at first glance looked like a forester's hut turned out in fact to be a Soviet communications bunker, packed under its high ceiling with communication equipment. Horror film directors will fight over this discovery. A strange place with incomprehensible equipment leads to frightening thoughts. What if some terrible medical experiments on people were carried out in this bunker? Did your knees start trembling too? Honestly, I am not even sure that I want to know. Surely this soldier had the nickname Unlucky Hans during the Second World War. Not only was he given a motorcycle instead of an armored vehicle, but he also somehow managed to get stuck on it in a swamp until the next century. Possibly nowhere else in the world have so many German secrets been preserved as in the bunker in Mauerwald. This place was the Führer's main headquarters and has the second name Wolf's Lair. Meetings of the highest command of the Wehrmacht were held here, and some of the most important operations of the Second World War were planned here. The dark entrance in the thicket is already alarming, but inside, the feeling becomes even worse. Dark tunnels in which clothes and belongings are scattered across the floor promise nothing good. This eerie sensation penetrates even through the screen. The new residents entered their garage and froze in amazement. There stood an unfinished Viper spaceship from the American science fiction series Battlestar Galactica. I wonder, could its owner have been Captain Apollo? Or the director of the series? Although the Second World War ended quite a long time ago, surprises like these can still be found along the former front lines. After such an explosive find, you start wondering whether swimming in the sea is really good for your health, or whether it is more of a dangerous lottery. It is a good thing that this P-18 Terek radar was discovered in our day by an ordinary person, and not by a KGB officer in 1980. Whoever installed it in the forest would have been found and arrested without questions. On mountaintops all across Europe, gigantic frozen-in-time ears from the Cold War still stand. These 20-meter antennas were part of the NATO project Unified European Command, a network that could transmit a signal even under conditions of radioactive fallout. This anti-ship missile was found literally at the edge of civilization. No one expected that in real life it would look so enormous. And is it even needed in a truly normal life? Most explorers of urban slums find only broken furniture and graffiti. But these lucky seekers discovered the 60-meter Energia M rocket, which was simply standing there, waiting to be found. It turns out that things like this can also become ownerless. Perhaps it is time to believe in extraterrestrial life, because in this video, something is flying from space toward a secret American base. It seems they were planning to test some kind of craft, but after noticing that they were being watched, they quickly moved it. It is strange that this footage has not yet been removed from the internet. Now I ask you to help with advice. The author of this video claims that the metallic object in the frame is a real spaceship, but for some reason I am not sure. Write your opinion in the comments. The Cold War drove the world into paranoia. Soviet precautionary measures also reached extremes. We are looking at giant Tesla coils that were used to test aircraft resistance to electromagnetic impulses. High in the Alps, right in the rock, there is a door carved from stone. Honestly, it would be better if it led to a fairy tale portal rather than to a secret military base with a gun ready to fire. Bats usually live on cliffs, but this 5-story building was definitely not built by them. Inside the structure, there are several rooms with concrete reservoirs, as well as a complex drainage and plumbing system. Some believe that rare salamanders were bred here, but that is only a theory. The point is not why this floor froze. What is unclear is why it still remains frozen, even though the temperature is clearly above zero. Maybe you know the answer. Share it in the comments. It all began when a woman accidentally pulled a brick out of the masonry and noticed a sheet of plywood beneath it. It seemed suspicious to her, and she asked her husband to continue dismantling the floor. By the time they reached the hidden door, their imagination was already painting thrilling pictures of secret tunnels and torture chambers. But instead of uncovering the mystery of the century, they found only an old water pump there. For some reason, an abandoned amusement park sends an unpleasant chill down your spine, and finding it in the middle of the night is a real nightmare. The strangest thing about this story is the haste with which the owners abandoned their collection. It feels as though they fled in panic from something or someone terrible. For a moment, I thought this was a real cave filled with kryptonite, but everything turned out to be far more ordinary. Before us is an abandoned glass factory, but it still looks impressive. Fort Blunder serves as a reminder that strategically correct placement is of decisive importance. Its construction began in 1816 to defend against British invasions from Canada. But because of a cartographic error, the fort was built on the wrong side of the border, not in the United States, but in Canada, which made it completely useless. If Albanian rebels had not stormed this area in 1997, no one might ever have discovered the secret Jelgava airbase. It consists of 600 meters of tunnels and has now become a graveyard for dozens of fighter aircraft from the communist era. In September 2014, the joy of underwater hunters was probably heard throughout all of Croatia. They discovered a Ju-87 R2 bomber, better known as a Junkers, that had been shot down in April 1941. During an underwater excursion, divers accidentally discovered a passenger airplane on the bottom. What is strange is that they found no information whatsoever about a crash in that area. This makes the discovery even stranger. If the plane had been moved by an underwater current, it would have broken apart into pieces. These concrete masses now form a breakwater off the coast of Virginia. The site is not especially cheerful, but the barrier made from the hulls of old ships does its job well. The reefs off the beach on the Hawaiian island of Lanai have destroyed more ships than the Bermuda Triangle. But the story of the vessel called Yogn 42 is completely different. In 1950, it was intentionally run aground because, at a length of 80 meters, the structure, made of concrete, presented a problem. Disposing of it would have cost a fortune. Now it lies on the reef like a silent warning to other ships and, you could say, is busy doing something useful. Judging by the load of the ship, it clearly was not planning to sink anytime soon. The tugboat lies bow up, as if asking for help in the hope that someone will finally notice it. No one knows how long it has been there, but its engine is still in working condition. In 2011, an unknown circular structure with a diameter of 60 meters completely disabled the electronic equipment of a ship that was sailing above it. And today, researchers apparently still cannot explain this anomaly. What do you think? Is this the work of aliens? I wonder how many more such devices are scattered across the ocean. Let us visit another former top-secret military base of Yugoslavia. Even the guards did not know what was produced here, but it was definitely connected with nuclear weapons. Not every snowdrift can turn out to be an abandoned bunker, but the probability is much higher than you think. Absurd projects sometimes become a memorial to mad dreams. The designer of the submarine promised that he would take his dogs to Antarctica in a 12-seat submarine. Unfortunately, all that remains of this idea today is a metal submarine frame rusting in the wind and rain. In 2015, the world was shaken by a horrifying discovery. Some called it Godzilla's egg. Others called it a newborn alien. Later, it turned out that it was only a trailer launch that drew interest to a film all over the world. 200 million years ago, a dinosaur from the Jurassic period was walking toward the water through soft, swampy ground, never imagining that its tracks would remain here forever. The residents of China's Hebei province no longer treat the fantasy genre skeptically after an 18-meter dragon skeleton was found in this area? Or will you say that someone staged a trailer plot here to advertise another film? You could say that this is just a crocodile skeleton, but the shape of the skull does not match any of their known species. It is not a giant fish or a mammal, but rather something else not yet discovered. Whose frame do you think this is? Costa Rica is strewn with mysterious stone spheres. Some joke that prehistoric giants used to play football here, but this theory still has no proof. And who do you think created these round stones and why? Lovers of ancient art should definitely wander through the canyons of Utah. They are literally covered with unique images, petroglyphs whose period of creation ranges from the 6th to the 14th centuries of our era. A temple in China's Hunan province will make you experience a real cultural shock. It stands on a steep 1,200-meter cliff and amazes visitors with its frescoes and Buddhist statues. Many theories have been created about the origin of this crater, from a uranium explosion to a meteorite fall. But one thing seems beyond doubt. This is not a natural formation. For 180 million years, this place kept its secret. But in 2022, British paleontologists finally uncovered it and extracted from the earth the remains of an ancient animal, an ichthyosaur, a type of ancient marine reptile. Just imagine. You turn on a flashlight in the dark and see a 20-meter whale skeleton, and behind it, another 13 giant skeletons. But there is no need to panic, because you have entered an abandoned museum of marine mammals. In the Living Coast Aquarium in Queensland, Australia, marine animals rescued by volunteers also once lived, though not so long ago. But the pandemic left behind nothing except lifeless figures. We do not know what happened to its inhabitants, but it is sad to realize that in that period, people had no time for animals. In the center of the Golan Heights lies Gilgal Rephaim, or the Wheel of Giants. 40,000 tons of black basalt were laid by someone in 5 perfect circles 3,000 years before the beginning of our era. Amazingly, this large-scale structure was discovered only in 1967. While exploring the mountains of Utah, a drone discovered a giant concrete staircase to nowhere. Let us admire the abandoned Tintic Mill, which is more than 100 years old. It seems that this abandoned town was exactly what served as the prototype for the creators of scenes in the computer shooter Metro Exodus. Leave a like if you agree. If you found something like this, what would your first impulse be? Would you not want to move to the other end of the city? Or better yet, to find yourself on the other side of the world, just to get as far away as possible from this secret dungeon? Witnesses to scenes like these, as a rule, do not live long. It looks as though we have before us the perfect scenery for filming a series about adventures on the railways. Do you also love exploring this theme? I will give you a hint. This interesting place is located in Belgium. In the slate mines of North Wales, it turns out entire underground cities are hidden. They survived even though the tunnels were flooded by groundwater. Miners once built them so they could live near their work. At first glance, you would never think that this ship repair yard was once one of the most prosperous in the USSR. Cargo barges and giant passenger vessels spent their winters here and were repaired here. But the collapse of the Soviet economy turned the pride of the river fleet into rusty statues that are slowly sinking into the ground. Rumors say that from 1952 to 1993, nuclear weapons were stored at the Woodbridge Air Force Base. You could say that the guy who explored this bunker got lucky. Instead of uranium, he found only a few old vending machines. Even so, even today, many things far from peaceful are hidden in this area. Cartridges, ammunition, and mysterious powders that remind visitors that this place is not safe at all. I would also very much like to find something unusual today. For example, an interesting comment from you on this video, a like, and a press on the subscribe button. And right now you can already click on the next videos that have appeared on your screen. They are insanely interesting.